Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and I'm joined. Oh, wait a minute. Let's see. It's Friday, June the 15th, 2018. I almost forgot that. And I'm joined by my two friends, BZ Rieger and Lisa Flamino Rush. And thank you, ladies, for being here tonight. And we're going to talk about paradox. That's one way of putting it, but also being able to hold and view two completely opposite points of view or points of perception as a truth. Oh, you actually popped out, Lisa. Did you see that?
I did. I saw that I was all by myself. I was gone. I just left. Sorry.
Okay, so we're having internet issues.
People are thinking we're having
I think so, yeah. What?
Like maybe shrooms or something.
Okay, I've been trying to shield my energy because I've been having effects on all sort of electronics. My phone, my computer, my tablet, my little Amazon Fire that I have. I mean, everything. And so I have been taking a moment and shielding the electronics from me and asking them to work with me. Mm-hmm. So I am doing that now. Hopefully, I've done it properly.
It's a little better.
It is better. So, okay, great. So,
what you're talking about, just for clarity's sake, or what we're playing with is different than this is not your father's paradoxes. It might be one way to say. So it's actually two different.
Now you're starting to lag.
Okay. So it's two different locational fields of consciousness. So it's beyond just your regular paradox.
Right. Well, and
it's a step in the stage that people go through. And we'll play with this one before we go on to the next one, because the next stage is trilocational consciousness, which for the last, big time today, but the last couple of days, I've been swimming in round the clock, which makes the bilocation consciousness look like because this is really odd.
Oh, fine.
Yes, and I'd love to do another conversation about that with you, BZ, because you shared with us that you've been experiencing that.
Yeah.
But for
one thing I think to start this with as we go into it is it's nothing to be afraid of. And some people, it may strike them the first time or a couple times that it happens as really strange, or I'm losing my mind, or you'll mark it in some way and you'll think it's odd. And some people will think, well, whoa, that's cool. But these are because we're not small, and we're not just human beings in this suit, in this shirt. And so this is our true nature. And as we implode into ourselves, this is how we roll. This is how we experience things. This is how we are, being and conscious because we're multidimensional. So there's multi, so I guess two could be multi, but it's a whole beyond that. And then, from your, you might think of it from your linear body or your linear perspective, or what you thought was, because that's gone. Because remember, I think since September of last year, I was saying, we're not in linear anymore. So anyway, so now it's getting obvious to everyone, even if you are not paying attention. And so, anyways.
Yeah, and for what I think I know I've shared, Lisa knows, and I shared with you, and we kind of touched on it in our last one, I guess. I'm reading, I'm now on Magenta Pixie's second book, and I can see very clearly that what we're doing, what I'm doing, I'll just speak for myself, what I'm doing is beginning to see, sense, and feel myself in more than one realm, if you will. That's the way I'm going to term it for now. I've not had any kind of sustained time, but I can feel these things. And there's a part of my linear brain, this upper front part of my consciousness that I always talk about, that it thinks, in the puzzle piece collecting biz, okay, I'm multidimensional. That means I have multiple layers and levels to myself. And what is the idea that we're all one and yet singular means that there's going to be some things that make sense. It's going to be this, and they're going to be opposite. And my mind went, well, how can that be? It's either this or this, but it's really not. But it always has been up until now, because we live in polarity. And as we move as we step into our what we really are, as for me anyway, what I'm feeling, and I know I'm not saying this right, all of those things are true and more, because you can't be all and singular without that, in my mind anyway.
Right. And as you expand into more expansive frequency vibrations and the neighborhoods that they hold, or that is held in those neighborhoods, you will cease to have that polarity and that duality. Although the fifth dimension, the new earth, where many of us are already living all the time now, and some go back and forth, and some are just glimpsing here and there, still has some polarity to it, but not at the real extreme dense dross pulling of that. So I think I gave a metaphor that you like ice cream, but you prefer this kind of ice cream better than this flavor of ice cream. So there's some polarity there. There's nuance to it. There's preferences to it. It's but it's not like we have. Well, and a lot of people are experiencing, maybe for the very first time, because they're waking up to really see the illusion that they were in. But anyways, just so that so if you feel moved to send an email going, well, wait a minute, I'm on the earth, and you said there wasn't going to be any polarity, and I can feel it. So that's, as we expand beyond that, that's not the case. And depending on where you are in your predominant frequency vibration that you hold right this moment, you actually will move into different dimensions, because the dimensions are not out there. The dimensions are within you. So you, depending on how you are holding that frequency vibration and how you're learning to tune it and play it with it, you can step in to different dimensional aspects of you from here. So from this very chair that I'm sitting in, I can be the director and direct where, intentionally, consciously, where I want to, for a moment, experience different things. I can also be unconscious or go back unconscious and fall back down into something else. But that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about consciously directing it. Because I got really tired of falling off the horse unconsciously. So I, really don't do that anymore. But anyway, so that's
right?
maybe a little ahead of ourselves, but that's what we're, an awful lot of people are already experiencing that, a lot, a bit here and there. What was that? A little here and there, and something. Sometimes you might describe it. You know how you see something out of your peripheral vision, so you go, oh, what was that? And you don't quite see it. And of course, when you turn, now it's not in the peripheral, so it's not that soft focus anymore. And so there, you may have moments where, did you imagine it? Was it a trick of the light? Was it whatever it is? And because you're starting to have at least the bilocational consciousness.
I'm feeling for myself that it's important for me to be open to the idea that as each of these realms or portions of me start imploding in or whatever, that we a lot of us know the term cognitive dissonance, and my comprehension of that word is the inability to hold two completely different beliefs at the same time.
Seemingly diametrically opposed.
Right. And so it is my contention, for myself at least, that I am always subject to cognitive dissonance at any given moment. And so for me, when that occurs, that's a signal for myself to, okay, well, really, are you sure that these two couldn't be true at the same time? It seems for me at this point a little easier to hold two diametrically opposed thoughts at the same time, and both of them be true.
Right.
Yeah.
And you can feel them to the fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's what we talk a lot about in all of these conversations, is perspective and your perception of different things. So when your perspective and how your camera, on your beingness aperture is widened out, So that's where in the narrow focus, you have this one perspective and you have the broader focus. And from a linear perspective, that's where the diametrically opposed comes in. Because from the broad perspective, they're not diametrical at all. I mean, yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. You bet, you bet. Wonderful, wonderful.
Right.
From the linear eyeballs looking at them, what?
Well, I'm beckoned to call attention to the recording that I did of my reading The Will and the Word of I. Because I will say to you, everyone, that finding that document and reading it for myself, and I mean sitting with it and reading it out loud and feeling it, did a lot for me in the fact that perception is all. I mean, perception and perspective is everything. And I think that has a lot to do with, for me, being able to see these things as, yes, they can both be true. Or not just both, but these 4 things, these 8 things, these 10 things, all completely different, all very true.
Right.
And yeah, that's so, and I think that
and you can take it, maybe I'll rattle everybody's brain a little bit, but you can take it, because you do take it a step further. So it's not just a perception of something, right? It's not your perspective on what you're looking at or what you're hearing, or you read one thing or you read another thing, but you will actually, that's usually the first way you notice it, but you will then experiences. You will actually have an experience. You're standing on the street or whatever it is you're doing, where you will have the bilocational consciousness, where you'll be experiencing and have a perspective of 2 different things simultaneously. So it's taking it out of just a thought or a saying or some thing someone's talking about, let's say on a video, and another person
right. I hope this is coming through right, because I'm feeling as though I'm not doing it justice again, because this is one of those things where I'm not as.
See, I have trouble talking about this, so this is important for me too, because I can experience it and it all feels quite natural to me. It feels like home, if you will.
Yeah.
But talking about it and pulling it into the linear perspective is really, really difficult for me. So, like, I used to remember when I first came here, Sheila, I was describing that there's me on this level, and then there's me up here. And I could sense and feel all of the bigger portions of myself, and I can connect in with the bigger portions of other people. And I noticed that not everybody, so in this realm, let's say, I could communicate with everyone's greater being, and they communicate back, and we have a relationship. But in the 3rd dimension, or this part, we didn't have that same synergetic, like we couldn't even agree on some very small fundamental things here. And so it was very difficult for me to describe, and so I was always looking for somebody that could sees me here and up here, because that's really rare. And And that, so that was really exciting to me to find you, BZ. And then the fact that you could describe all of that in such a way that makes sense in the linear realm is very exciting to me, I cannot tell you. I am shaking out of my body right now because this conversation is so, so important.
Well, and one thing I will add is that you're not up here anymore. A part of you is not here anymore.
Right. Yes.
And
yes, and that is what I'm. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. There's a lag.
I was just going to say that is what I'm working on, actually owning it, because I am still holding it as though it is out here, and that's kind of what I've been working through the last couple of days. That it really isn't. It's all happening in here, like all of it. This is what I'm really starting to embrace. That there are no parts of me missing in the linear, even where I was kind of holding it that way, and I was sort of, I had to either be over there or be here, and now I am merging the two worlds. But what it's created is a whole new world that I'm totally unfamiliar with. So I find myself trying to, well, it feels as though I'm throwing the little brick out in front of me and stepping on it as I go. So.
I like that. Well, you actually gave a great example of, so when you're shifting from it being out here, right?
Yes.
You are now coming into that bilocational consciousness, because before it was separation.
Yes.
Perspectives actually really didn't have anything to do with each other. That was something else, and this is me.
Right. Yes.
So that's resolving itself, and as an implosion takes place, but also another way to say it that you gave voice to is very important, is that you have to give permission. You've got to invite that in. I mean, the rest of you is coming in, and it's happening because of the energies and where we're going. So by inviting it in, maybe is a better way to say it, and saying, yeah, I'm 100% committed, and right, and there'll be that holding of you, which then creates something totally different in body. You're choosing a smoother path.
Yes.
Which
yep.
And also
I just decided, okay, we're doing this now. And I'm trying to have fun with it instead of seeing it. I don't know, for a while it was sort of, I was dreading it just a little bit because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. And so if I'm not really good at something, I don't like that.
I'm going to stop you for a minute. So who is the I?
Oh, the little me.
Okay.
Yes. And the little me gets afraid of doing things that it isn't familiar with. And so I decided to, big me was offering the idea that it could be play and a lot of fun. And I really embrace that perspective, and it really is. And even the hard parts, I can really embrace as fun. And I know, well, here we go with the paradox, because it's ownership of my creator ability to play, because it's a part of creation, and I'm owning it in a way that I haven't before because I'm embodying it. And so even the hard parts right now are feeling pretty delicious.
Right, and remember too that you don't have to, it's a choice. So if you want to, that's cool, but you don't have to continue that polarity between the little me and the big me.
Yes.
Because it doesn't actually exist.
Right.
So if you if you're doing it because you're not realizing you're doing it, which is an unconscious choice, then in that aspect, you would be choosing a path that's a little longer winding road. But of course, then part of you then gets frustrated. Why is it being a long winding road? Because you got the pizza stuck to your face. See previous video.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, that's so again, that's a beautiful example of how you in particular, but all of us kind of catch ourselves up that way.
Yes. Well, it's well practiced. I've done it for a very long time.
Right. So play with, are you ready to stop?
Oh, yes.
Wasn't there a movie, All of Me?
That's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So, and part of that all coming together was not being that, in essence, the diametrically opposed, right? So, right. Big me, the little me, I'm real and that's, make believe kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Right. Well, there was also the male-female component to that movie.
Well, that's what I mean. But
yeah.
So it's even more of a good metaphor because all of that blending is coming in. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I've noticed a lot. I've really been noticing the how we, Source, has been seeding the consciousness for the last several years, actually, apparently, because, I wasn't watching a lot of television or movies or, things like that. And there are some older things and some now newer things and some things that I haven't ever even heard of that I've had some, very linear at the moment friends who are saying, oh my God, they were just talking about that last night on this show. Or are you watching this series I'm paying attention to over here? I'm like, no, and so there's a lot of seeding going on in the human consciousness that we are doing for those of us who aren't, as familiar perhaps as, some of the others of us who have been seeking this information.
Yeah, that's part of the way showers that are getting, and it could be completely unconscious. They're just getting inspired to do something and that's coming up, but it's their training, that they came in with of way shower.
Right.
That's helping with that.
Yeah. And that just happened again to me today. I was having lunch with a friend and, we were talking about things and, I happened to say a few things as I do. And, and she was like, oh my God, it's so funny. You should say that. This was on, I don't know. One of the shows she was talking about was the Vikings and something else was The Crossing. And so, some of what I was saying to her is in both of those shows. And I said, well, that's because that's what's up, So, yeah.
Well, that's the other thing. So to use Lisa's term for a minute, so the bigger us, right, which a fair number still hold is out there, if they even hold it at all, that it is there.
Right.
Has been bringing all of that forth for us to integrate it ourselves, and then part of the way to integrate things is through inspiration and creativity and all that kind of stuff. And so if you create something out there that you can look at and it reflects back to you, so it's an inside job for that one being, but oftentimes that they're in the right place to then, other beings can, they go to the movie theater or they read the book or television or whatever it is, and that they come into they as we were talking about last video, where there's that interface, that connection, and then your toning as you connect with that, and then tuning your vibration, tuning your experience. So in a way, might be your bilocational consciousness on something. And it doesn't have to just be diametrically opposed. It can be just distinctly different. So it doesn't have to be, good and evil. It can just be completely different ways to look at it. So this is a funny thought that's coming to my mind. It's almost like, although there isn't the debate point, but when you have debates, you're just holding a perspective, and then you're having conversations so that you can play. It's almost like, playing tennis or something, right? So with the perspective. So now you're doing that yourself, but when you truly have the bilocational consciousness, there is not a fight between them. So there's no smashing of the ball, or, either way, because you absolutely can hold this and absolutely hold this, whether they're completely diametrically opposed or they're more sitting like this and they're distinctly different. You can see, feel, sense, savor the totality of each of them. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, well, in a very beautiful way, and this is not the right word, but I'll use it because it's a good linear term to create an image. It smashes the linearness of them, because it totally smashes the judgment and the separation, because whether it's an idea or a thought, right? Or like, so again, in videos, if you're using videos as an example, you watch this radio show and this radio show, right? So it actually removes that. There are no judgments to either one. There is no hierarchy. There's no hierarchical nature to either one. And anything that may then come into your field or your flow, or that you play with from there, won't have it either. It may start with, until you get really good at dancing with that. Does that make sense?
Yes. I wanted to add something for myself anyway, in regards to holding that, on the outside, in regards to our higher being or whatever. Okay. For me, this is a good example, actually.
Okay.
For me, I can hold that it is me, and all within and up here, all at the same time, and they are both right for me. Now, that's not necessarily for everyone, and that's okay too. That's how it works. That's what it's all about, right? And so for me, in getting my physical brain, my smarmy, if you will, to comprehend in a linear fashion what is going on here, holding it that the higher portion of me is imploding into me, is a true statement in the linear sense. In that, because that helps me know too, also, that there are things within those programs and things have to be pushed out in order to make that room. So in a linear sense, That is a true statement for me. However, it is also true. I can hold it at the same time that it is all within me, and that I hold all of that, and each one of you, my trees in my yard, and all of that as me as well. And that is true too. And so that's really what we're talking about here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm trying to operate from my higher mind. So I am trying to switch from out there to in here more to, I want to blend seamlessly now. I want to have, instead of questioning things, I want to know things. So I'm shifting from, let me ask my greater being to just, what do I know about this? So that's, you're absolutely right, because I've held those two diametrically opposed concepts, and marrying them now is the whole new thing that I'm doing. And it is very new, but it feels really good, and it feels extremely empowering. So I'm choosing to do it more often, because I was just when I could remember to do it. And so I'm focusing on remembering to do it every moment. But I think that once that shift is complete, I think I'll move at Mach speed, because like right now I'm a little too afraid to move a little fast, because I'm just wobbly, and I feel like a baby who's crying. I'm very enthusiastic, but I still end up on my rear. So but like I said, even falling on my rear, I'm having a good laugh. Didn't that look funny? Did you see how my legs flew up? This is so fun. Because when I was riding my bike, I had great tragedies happen, but I loved every minute of it. And I couldn't wait to get the Band-Aid on the knee and back on that bike. So I'm really staying in touch with the child within me that likes to play and have fun, because it's making things that seem a little scary to me less afraid. It's because as a child, I don't remember really being afraid of anything, although injuries did happen and all of that. So I'm really trying to connect with that part of me that is enjoying all of it.
I'm not sure why something that you were just saying in that description, Lisa, and something that Sheila was saying in her description about holding it still part of you outside, although inside, and you're inviting, Lisa, consciously all of it in, and brought me to go look up this visual, and I'll just put them up, but it's something about it. I think I don't know. I was asked to go get them, so I don't quite see it all, but there you go. Can I share the screen?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Okay. So this one was kind of fun, right? Where the orange juice represents your glass, your vessel, here, and the energy's coming in. And of course, I thought this was kind of fun that it could make a mess, or it could be, you're embracing.
Really fun.
And then the other one, which is a little simpler, is just that one, that sometimes things seem to be rushing in, but that's a really good metaphor. And this one here, and particularly that one, is a really good metaphor for what is occurring. So anyways.
I love that.
Yeah, me too.
Nice.
Please email that to me, BZ, because I think that's going to be the thumbnail.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'd like to point out that the one where there's all the splashes over the side, that right there is also very indicative of for me, how a lot of this is working and why I can hold it as being inside of me and out here imploding in, because of the whole thing we were talking about with, because you know what? Things are still coming up and coming out and, begging to be looked at and, sometimes cried over and released.
Over or stomped over, or all of them at the same time.
All of the above.
All at the same time sometimes.
Better out than in. Letting it go.
Yeah, that's right. Way more room on the outside than there is on the inside. So, yeah. And so for me, that was I want to thank you, Lisa, for actually bringing that up in the way you did, because for me, that's exactly, that just shows exactly what we're talking about here. That's just one of many examples, though, of seeing it and both of those things being true.
Mm-hmm.
And I do realize, because I can hear that there, well, I mean, we've been contacted. I've been contacted by, a few folks that have issue or have, trouble and still being able to hold to these two kinds of different things. Well, how can both things be true? I don't get that. And I really don't.
Well, it's one of those things that you feel it and know it when you feel it and you know it.
And not a
you can
moment before.
Right. And you can talk with others about it. You can listen to others talking about it. You can, kind of get close or maybe on something that you're oftentimes where we have the biggest pushback on that is for some reason we're particularly lit up by one of those things. And that can't be true. Yet someone else may have something that are two different things that don't light them up. You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Got an echo going on.
I know, I hear that.
Is that Lisa? Do you need to turn in?
Yes, it's Lisa's laptop. No, that's fine. It's not you. I think look.
It's her.
The three of us are weighing some energy right now.
It's not the laptop. Yeah. So, hey, we're having multiple consciousness.
Yes.
See, because when she just laughed, it's not her. Because it didn't reverb on her. Usually it reverbs on her own computer.
No, I know.
Yeah. Okay, well, maybe nobody else is getting the joke, but the three of us think it's a pretty funny joke.
Well, I never know if anybody really is laughing along with us.
I know.
Sometimes I'm like, what's that all about? Well, it's funny to me, and that's all I care about.
Well, maybe this is a good place to close this energetic envelope. Just that if you're not already experiencing this, just wait a moment.
It's coming for you.
I guarantee you'll be experiencing. And wait a few more moments and play with this, and then you'll be experiencing things, that I've been experiencing the last couple of days, and that'll make this look piece of cake or tame or whatever of that.
Yeah. Well, I will be I will put a link to the will and the word of I in this video. And of course, there will always be how to check out Lisa's blog, the Heart Song Musings, and Rush Solutions Tools for Transformation, along with BZ's blog over at the IUV. And as always, you can join the conversation over at the Friends of Facebook, yes, okay. The Friends of Conscious Conversations Central Facebook page. And how to contact me at my email address is always in the body of every video. So reach out if you'd like. And so thank you for being here, ladies. Until next time.
Bye-bye.